What up, y'all? It's ttar, and today we're gonna be looking at more of Riddler Q's scrap Pokemon Scarlet and Violet notes, things that were supposed to be in the game that were scrapped. Let's keep going. So here's one where he posts a picture of Terapagos. This is a tame one, but it gives a lot to think about. This little baby did get many dope setups on its design specification book pages. The frick? And unfortunately ended up being unfinished with those rushed final scenes. Hopefully we would see them one day from another media of the franchise like anime or spin-offs, etc. Okay, he's saying what Terapagos was shown to us to be is not what its final design was supposed to be. Let's try to break this down. This dude pissed me off. This little baby did get many dope setups on its design specification book pages. I'm assuming he's talking about the scrap notes, the notes of when they were drawing concept art for Terapagos. And he's talking about the baby right now, that it was supposed to look different. Honestly, I don't think baby Terapagos probably was supposed to look different. It's a pretty good design, and it's just supposed to represent the minimalist possible form they could give to Terapagos. So if anything, their notes probably had it more simple than even this. Because, you know, the concept of Terapagos is that it's turtles all the way down. So this is supposed to be the simplest form. And so this form is also one they had to make so simple that they put it as the 18 type Terra crown. So I don't think this design really went through many changes, aside from upping its cute factor, making it so people for some reason want to buy a merch of him. But he keeps going, and unfortunately ended up being unfinished with those rushed final scenes. Okay, so this is stage 2. He's talking about the final scenes in the Underdepths when Kieran catches Terapagos, it goes into its stellar form. So this is when we're talking about the other two forms. Now, Terapagos' second form, clearly, that's probably early on what they figured out it was going to be, because they had drawings of that Terapagos at the start of the year in February when they announced the Indigo Disc. So that was going to maintain its design. So really, when we look at what Q's trying to talk about here, it's Stellar Terapagos, the big dog. The internet is very polarized with this Terapagos, but to me, it's one of the coolest designs ever. It's supposed to be goofy. It's so stupid. I love it. And I mean, I made a whole video talking about it, talking about what the truth of Terapagos is, how it got lost in the earth millions of years ago. But the idea is Stellar Terapagos is supposed to be... How many of y'all know this? Okay, so you see Stellar Terapagos, right? They say in the Pokédex entries it's like a globe. When ancient people saw it, they thought it represented like a globe flying through space. So at the top you've got little baby Terapagos and then terrestrial Terapagos. But at the bottom layer, what you're seeing is not a globe. What you're seeing is the head of a Terapagos that's even bigger than them. So it's a giant Terapagos that's wearing terrestrial Terapagos as a crown, who's wearing Terapagos as a crown. So the idea is, whatever Stellar Terapagos, the bottom turtle is, it's not gonna look like the other two turtles. It's gonna be an even greater step. Because look at the first turtle. Baby turtle to second turtle is a huge transformation. There's a big difference between them. But if this big turtle is wearing the crown, and its crown is already a terrestrial Terapagos, then it's going to be the same difference from baby to terrestrial that terrestrial is to stellar. Which means, whatever that head you see is, it's not going to look like any of the Terapagoses we've seen. That's my, at least, hypothesis on it. It's going to be a whole further form for Terapagos. We just can't see it. This is the level of reality we live at. We're not going to be able to see it. But to us, it just looks like it's a globe. And so that's the whole idea. Ancient people thought they were on a turtle. So to them, they look at this globe and they think, yeah, this is the earth we live on. But really, it's a whole turtle. Okay, so that's cool, right? When he says stuff ended up unfinished with those rushed final scenes, it makes me think they actually butchered... Well, butchered is a pretty strong term. What Stellar Terapagos was supposed to be. Now, it did work out. They didn't really miss anything with its design right now. But maybe they really had it planned to show what I'm saying here. The full Stellar Terapagos appearance. Now, let's talk about something else. Heat. The drawing that he had sketched in his Area Zero venture shows a much different Stellar Terapagos. One that looks more chaotic, summoning these storms. You can see like a tsunami. And if you look at this Terapagos, it does not have pentagons. It has hexagons. And if I show you a picture of terrestrial Terapagos, those are pentagons. So what Heath saw and what we see as Stellar Terapagos, they're not the same. Now, even if you go to Stellar Terapagos, if I show you a picture of it, you might think, okay, maybe Terapagos' pentagons turned into hexagons, they didn't. It's still pentagons, it's just glowing. So two options here. One, this is not what Heath saw, and so Heath did see a further Terapagos. Or two, Heath just inaccurately had it sketched, which is very possible. And here's what I'm gonna say here. The drawing in Heath's journal was made much earlier than when the DLC was announced. DLC is announced February of 2023. The journal, it's already sketched and in the book in these games that came out in November of 2022. We could even add a couple months earlier probably that the sketch was done because this is the gimmick Pokemon of the game. They probably had a good plan for it early on. There's enough of a gap between this drawing and ultimately the Stellar Terapagos being revealed to us. A good like year and a half gap that it makes sense. They could have scrapped and changed their mind from this design, and you can always put that excuse I gave just now, that Heath didn't have an accurate representation of it. But there was one hole in this that might out Game Freak did change their design that I was always wondering about, which is Heath, it's not just that drawing. He writes as well that there's interlocking hexagonal plates. So he vividly remembers that they're hexagons, not pentagons. Again, you could say, okay, he's not captured what he saw properly. Maybe it was pentagons all along. And then we get to the last piece of evidence, Sada and Turo, who are scientists. They're not going to mistake it. And they call it hexagons as well. So this shows me something is off here. The Stellar Terapagos we got might not be, and probably isn't, the same creature Heath saw in the same exact thing that Sada and Turo were studying. So this makes me think, if you were actually able to take this big Stellar Terapagos and show what the turtle at the bottom was, again, these are just my opinions, okay? That it would be a lot like Heath's drawing. That it would be what it really looks like wearing the crown of Terrestrial Terapagos, wearing the crown of Baby Terapagos. And that's really what they had planned when they wanted the turtles all the way down concept. And then afterwards they're like, this is too much work. And so they scrapped it because it's how we said it there, right? Rushed final scenes. They wanted to get the DLC out fast. And I imagine, right, while this DLC is being worked on, they already have the next Pokemon game planned and probably a team working on that. So they really just want to get out the Indigo Disc fast so they can properly work on what we now know to be Legends EA. So sometimes you gotta rush scenes. So Stellar Terapagos maybe got reduced down to this, but they did it well enough to where they left the head of the biggest Terapagos turtle to where the meaning is still entirely captured there. Now, there is one thing that's kind of cool as an alternative that I wanted to point out, which is what were Sada and Turo really studying? Did they really see like a sleeping Terapagos somewhere when they said Terapagos' shell, well, it was blanked out, but this blank Pokemon's shell was made up of interlocking hexagonal plates? Did they find a Terapagos? I want to point to this, which is maybe they were studying something like this, which is just like a mass of terrestrial energy, and it shoots out in the shape of hexagons as well. So maybe this is really what they thought was Terapagos, what was in the white book, and so they're studying this, which probably has a close enough makeup to Terapagos' actual shell. I mean, it's filled with terrestrial energy anyway, so it's pretty close. But all in all, even if this is the case, even if Heath incorrectly described it, and Sada and Turo misunderstood this for being Terapagos' shell, there is one detail that's kind of just out there to me that doesn't line up, which is that, you know, all the gems you see in Area Zero are hexagons. If there were no hexagons at the core of Terapagos, aside from that button on its back, the terrestrial symbol, then why would all of these be hexagons? They might as well have just been pentagons from the start, which would also help differentiate it from Zygarde, which turns out to be the next game right after. So it makes me think they really did have this hexagon design planned. And if I show you a picture of Baby Terapagos here, what's on its shell and makes it up are quadrilaterals, which are 4 that make up a polygon. So then you get to terrestrial and it's made up of pentagons, which is 5, and then stellar would have been 6. That's why I imagine they had hexagons all over Area Zero, because really they were coming from the most core power, which was that 6. That's what I think. Now, cool. What else did he write in this freaking tweet? Hopefully we would see them one day for another media of the franchise like anime or spin-offs. Okay, this is perfect. I'm saying here that that head was supposed to have a full body. And so his wording lines up with that to make it sound like there really is that. There really is a full body and a further form for Terapagos you'd be able to see that they just cut short. So maybe the anime right now, it's kind of behind because we're far past the Indigo Disc. We know all the mysteries of Terapagos. If they wanted to keep this up and actually give something that the anime could show off to us, they could show off the true form of Terapagos' stellar design. Because remember in the game, our awakening of Terapagos was pretty simple and very minimal, right? All Karen did was terrestrialize Terapagos. It's at the beginning stages. You could almost imagine that stellar Terapagos is the first stage. And if it kept absorbing more and more terrestrial energy, it would form the chaotic Terapagos that Heath drew. And so there's like a second stage to that if that terrestrial battle just went on long enough. And so maybe you could even call this a fourth form for Terapagos, where it makes more sense why stellar Terapagos only has a 700 BST. That's something like that. Once the cat is fully out of the bag and the full Terapagos is formed, that it has Eternatus-like base stats. And maybe that's something the anime might do. It's interesting that he noted here the possibility that hopefully we would see them one day. You would think with what he knows about Pokemon that he would see that as an impossibility. I mean, once something is scrapped, it's usually gone. But he's making it sound like it's still on the table. It's still very possible that one day we could see him. Anyhow, that's just my thoughts, okay? There's really different ways to read Ku's tweet here. That's always how I've seen stellar Terapagos, that there really is a bigger turtle with a much different appearance that's supposed to be on the bottom. If you ask different people, they'll give you different ideas. That's just mine. Shank that like button. Let me know your thoughts. Do you think this is possible? Will there be a fourth and fully formed version of Terapagos that they might show us in the anime, or like you said, in spin-offs or a future Pokemon game? Shank that like button. I'll see you on the next one. Take care.